am LaNicia Duke. I am the Executive Director of Humble Beginnings. We have founded an initiative called the Black Rural Network that just literally was a thought in my head last year, especially after everything that happened subsequent George Floyd's murder, and just like how do we have conversations in rural communities, because we're different than people that live on the I-5 corridor in the States. But someone said to me in a meeting when I asked, when they looked at equity, if they would look beyond just translating for Spanish-speaking community members. And she looked me dead in my face on Zoom and told me that there were not enough Black people in our community to have those conversations. And I'm thankful today proves her wrong. And a lot of other people that don't think that Black people exist in rural communities, that we are not thriving in rural communities, that we are really helping integrate Oregon in 2022, right? And so literally it was just a thought in my head when Heidi, the Executive Director of Rural Development Initiatives, asked if we wanted to host our first Black Rural Network conference after their Regards to Rural conference. I said yes. But today is definitely not what I had in mind. It has over measured my expectation in abundance. Like, I don't even know if there's enough cups to feel what actually happened versus when I just had the idea last year to get this going. To be in Pendleton, to see this many Black people in a place where we're still not large in numbers. Folks traveling from all corners of the state to be here, to share in this moment and the experience and the connection. I'm thankful that God has allowed me to just be a part of this, because this is truly, I believe, God's work. And I am just an instrument and a tool being used to what the preacher said. She said, connecting is in my DNA. And so to be able to connect people with one another, it's just overwhelming, but a really good overwhelming. I just wrote on Facebook right before we started, I put, let me remind somebody, encourage someone, that when God makes a promise, no matter what it takes for you to get to that end, everything in between is worth it, because God is the ultimate promise keeper. That's all. Like, I can't take credit for this. And I'm thankful that I've given myself permission to be completely authentic in who I am and what I am and why I am, so that when I do something like this, the center is on God. Even for those who don't believe in God, they get an experience with God in a way that may prick their heart. Seeds were planted today. Who knows what happens? People that have been harmed by religion, who knows what happens? But I don't know how else to do my work without centering my relationship in my faith, because that's what keeps me centered. It's what keeps me moving. It's what keeps me going when I'm tired. Like, everybody's saying, you did this. And I'm like, no, we did this. It took all of us showing up together to make this happen today. And God had already set us up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how do you feel like it impacted the audience that was here?
Man, I think there was a lot of tears in our room today. Tears of joy, tears of connectedness. You never know who will be impacted how until the moment happens. And when I sat in this room at 2 o'clock in the morning, all I could do was pray that the atmosphere had already been prepared. People's hearts have already been opened. People's minds have already been renewed. And so we were just coming to celebrate what has already taken place. One, the exchange of business cards that happened today. And I know that I'll get requests. Can you put me in touch with this person? Can you put me in touch with that person? Most definitely, because that's why we're here. And then there's me just gently continuing to say, y'all can do this together. We can do this together. Let's do this together. Just a fresh wind that'll keep us moving forward, but hopefully better together, like they said earlier. I would tell that child of mine, that God knew me before I was formed in my mother's womb. And every day of my life, God has already thought out. And my formative years, I'm not just like, I don't know, like I had a great growing up experience, but I still ended up broken. And I tell people, like, I think the first 18 years of our life are meant to kill our spirit before we actually have an opportunity to live. I would tell her, don't stop looking in the mirror. Never be ashamed of what you see in the mirror. And that it was that brokenness that led me to the healing. And if I hadn't been broken in the ways that I had been broken, I would have never been reborn into the way that I've been reborn. And so every experience that broke me, God was still there. And I'm thankful. I would remind her that all things work together for the good. All things. The good, the bad, the ugly, the failures, so many failures. So many failures, but most importantly, I would tell her to keep loving herself, to learn how to love herself, and to know that love is rooted in every part of the goodness that was put in me before I was even born. I first say start by having conversations with yourself. The preacher this morning, she said, change starts with us first. We got to do the work here before the work can be done out here. And I think too many of us come to places that we're looking for healing, but we bring our brokenness. And that's not bad, but if we're only operating out of our brokenness, how can we really cultivate a healing space? And so I would say, man, we have all been through it. We all gonna go through it. And trust the process. Because if you trust the process, the journey will lead you where you're supposed to go. For me, I'm thankful I found God. And I grew up in church, and I didn't find God until I was 27. And if it's not God, to find something that's bigger than you, so that you always are reminded that there is something greater, that there is something bigger that embodies us. And I believe that everything that I do is just a reflection of what's already happened and what continues to happen here. Yes, God is real. That was my grandfather's favorite song. And it took me a really long time to understand what that song meant. There are some things I may not know. There are some places I may not go. But I am sure of this one thing, that God is real. for I can feel them in my soul. It's like to believe in something bigger than yourself requires you to think that there's more in you than you can even tap into by yourself. And to be authentic, don't let nobody tell you who you should be, who you cannot be. And to build boundaries, to trust the process, and to lead with love. And when you lead with love, you cannot go wrong. You might make some mistakes along the way, but you can't go wrong because your intention is rooted in love.